three things that I thought were interesting were the respect, showing respect for the client and asking for permission. I think that's courtesy. That's good courtesy and a very good practice for me to develop. And the second one is also eliminating surprises, which are really quite interesting, so that people would accept it as long as they're not surprised. And I think that's more of a human nature standpoint rather than perhaps a coaching standpoint, but certainly appreciate that. And also the aspect of letting the client actually do the work, actually go forward. And the statement that really stuck out for me is he said, "I don't know." And I modify it for myself. I think it's perfectly fine to not know those particular situations, but adding yet. So for me, I like to say, I don't know yet, because that allows me to be curious, allows me to have anticipation, and actually allows me to have open mind to be able to explore some possibilities. And it also allows me to communicate to my subconscious. I take my subconscious wherever I can. And so when I speak in the conscious world, I'm speaking to my subconscious as well. So that allows me to show up in the world a lot better. And I'm showing up as an investor for the last 30 years, consulting for as many years, and coaching businesses for the last 15 years. And I started a mentoring program that we call Peers on Demand as a way to be able to connect leaders, trusted advisors, and develop actually doing business, referring business, joint ventures. Here's what I think silence is not feeding back with your words, but your mind still needs to be active. And your mind needs to be active, not so much in terms of what to respond, but pinpoint those key words that are said by the client. Now, there's two ways of doing it. One is to write it down, which is what I do, to write down the key words on a paper. And that way we could keep track of it. The other one is to memorize those keywords, because that way you don't break eye contact, especially in the world of Zoom where we can look at each other. But I can write without looking or breaking eye contact. My hand knows where the paper is and I can write keywords. I think that's important. Here's why. In order to really develop something significant, patterns are important. And in some cases, people consider them as intuition, but it's really patterns. We're tracking patterns. And that's one of the ways to get better insight into either asking a better question or guiding or making a decision or taking a action. So patterns are important. And the only way to do that is, in my mind, having the keywords and being able to track those things that a client would say or that somebody else would say, and be able to guide, be a good guide, because the person that's speaking is also doing the same thing, but they are expressing it at random. It depends on the person if they already have a logical sequence of what they need to say or they're talking in a random sequence. Either way, what we're searching for is more clarity. That's where we're all heading, clarity. To be able to get clear about what we're discussing, and from that, it's more strategies and then what action to be taken, the tactics. So in order to do that, we need to be very good at recognizing patterns. And patterns are developed by practices. and practices are developed by experience. And so when we're talking to somebody, a client that has a lot of experience, a lot of practice in terms of what they do, they're also expressing patterns that allows them to have that clarity about what action to take. So I'm thinking that that might be a real good thing. And here's, of course, we could do that on a piece of paper, but if we do it in our brain, it's a great exercise of using the brain to keep track of particular key words that we can come back to that. And so memorization skills are very important for that, using the neuroscience that you mentioned before, being able to actually in our brains, our minds, make those connections, those neural connections, those synapses, so that when we need it to come back, we have it in our brain. And we could also have it on paper, but I think if we have it in our brain, speed is important and clarity is important. And we have a lot more accessibility in our brain, 100 billion neurons, 100 trillion synapses. Our computer is our brain. It's so much faster, so much better. The magic of coaching, the magic of being a human being, the magic of having clarity and forwarding the thoughts, not the conversation as much, but the thinking, forward the thinking. So as we age, it's those three components that are critical to successful aging: the mental, the physical, and the emotional aspects. So if we could just master those and continuously improve rather than continuously degrade, because apparently at the age of 20, we start degrading in all those three components, then all of a sudden life becomes difficult unless it becomes a healthy life, to be able to continuously expand those three components. So that's what I'm starting to understand are very interesting, critical ideas. And now the key is how to do that, how to continuously enhance it, because I think we can agree that, yeah, let's do that. And so if we agree on that, why doesn't everybody do that? And I'm starting to find out that they don't know, doctors don't know, people don't know how to do that. And people have accepted aging as a fact of life, that we age because, nothing lives forever. That's true, except that we could extend the life, the aging process, to a healthy life, not just life enhancement, but health enhancement with those three factors. And that's the path that I'm following that allows us to show up better with our clients, so that if our brains are firing off, our neurons are kicking in, our memory is coordinated, then our physiology, how we show up, our silence, being able to keep quiet at the right moment, being able to be respectful, and the relationships is part of being respectful, part of being able to ask permission. And so our relationships enhance, because those are the three components that continuously degrade as we age: our brain, our mind, our physical aspect, and our relationships. People die off, and all of a sudden we're left alone. And people die because their loved ones have gone. And I think that's a tragedy in itself. I think the object of a human being is to live as long as they can in a healthy way. And that's one of the things that I'm starting to uncover more and more, what we don't know, but also the promise of what's coming, like a Peter Diamandis that's talking about the next 20 to 30 years that are phenomenal projections of technology to be able to enhance our health span using technology, the ability to treat aging as a disease and be able to get that recovered, to be able to use the brain in a way that we can enhance it rather than deteriorate, eliminating alcohol or drugs or things that really are harmful for the brain that is promoted. And physically, to be able to extend our physiology or physical capabilities even more so that we can actually do what we used to do when we were in our 20s. And our relationships, the emotional aspect, seems to me the one thing that can derail us. People just aren't unable to manage or control or organize their emotions, and they make irrational thinking because of their emotions. So that's the third aspect. So I'm starting to think that if we can manage those three correctly, consistently, and systematically with other people, then we're in the right direction. I think we're heading into the right world that Peter Diamandis is talking about in the next 20 years, and the other things that people are promising for longevity, healthy longevity. So, and that applies to coaching, to be able to help our clients get in that direction, because I think the human being shows up. And so we may be talking to a business person as I talk to business people, and I'm interested in their business, but the human being shows up. And as the human being shows up, the business improves better and it's the preparation I'm starting to understand that allows you to set you up for success, that allows an individual to make better quality choices. There's the key. It's the quality, because we all have a choice. Which is the better quality choice? Short term and long term. Long term is probably better because uh, you get rewards, delayed gratification. It happens better because we're going to be living longer. If you make short term rewards, short term decisions, it just signals to the subconscious we're not going to be living long enough, so we better get as much as we can now before we expire. So making those quality choices makes sense. There's three different areas: an internal reward, external rewards, and external gifts. And the internal rewards, I'm starting to understand, are the three things that we mentioned, or I mentioned, in terms of the mind that is able to make decisions, strategize. I look at the mind as an executive brain to be able to know where we're at, what decisions to be made, and we get rewarded by different rewards like dopamine or serotonin or endorphins or even cortisol. So we get these chemicals that really rewards or entices us to go in one direction. So that's an internal reward. From a physiological standpoint, there are physical rewards, again, rewarding with endorphins, the ability to move. Those are rewards that we can move, that we can even extend our capabilities, that we could be as young as we choose to be physically with vitality. So that's an internal reward. And the relationships, it's also an internal reward that we're able to understand the emotions that we're going through, that allows us to develop the feelings that we need or want to have, which allows us to have the thinking that we need to do, and then the behaviors, how we show up with others, with ourselves and with others. Those are internal rewards. And by doing that correctly, all just those three, the external rewards, which is the material world, the financial world, rewards us because we show up as a better person. Now, it may reward us in different capabilities, but all we need is enough to really keep our internal rewards going, our brain, our body, and our emotions. To keep that going, we don't need a lot. We can want $1 billion, but all we probably need is enough food to subsist and place to live and to continue. So whatever the external rewards are, to be able to keep us going. The world will reward us as we show up better. That's how we're designed, at least in the democratic world. It might be different in the autocratic world. But even at that, if you show up with your best self, the world rewards us externally. And then there is the external gifts. And that I look at that as nature. I look at that as spirituality. I look at that as something that we can enjoy the world. And it's a gift that we can step in. And out of that, of course, it may be the actualization. We become a higher level according to Maslow's hierarchy of levels. His is a sequential step by step by step. This is all encompassing, having the internal rewards, the external rewards, and the external gifts.